Hey everyone, and welcome back to another SkillCapped Valorant news roundup. Today, we will be diving into all the news surrounding patch 1.02. We have all sorts of news to cover in today's video, such as a possible Battle Royale mode, new game-changing agents, and even huge leaks that show Valorant's next step towards esports. Also, over these past few days, the Valorant esports scene has been blowing up with huge signings by some top-tier orgs. Don't worry though, because we have all this information jam-packed into one video. SkillCapped is your spot for all the up-to-date Valorant news, so if you want to be in the loop, then be sure to subscribe with notifications on. Now let's get right into the news. To start off this video, we have some crazy leaks that have been data mined from the game files. One of the biggest leaks comes from Floxy, and in this leak, we can see that a draw outcome has now been added into Valorant. At the end of the 1.02 patch notes, the devs said that the competitive mode would be played with the same sudden death mode as usual, even though they knew it was unfair. They added on to this by saying that they were actively working on replacing this with a far more fair solution, and this might be that exact solution. How do you feel about this? Do you want to just tie after playing a 30 to 45 minute match? Let us know in the comments of this video. Now our next leak comes from the Redditor RadMangoes. In this Reddit post, we can see that a moderator role will be added to custom matches, and this refrains all players from using cheats unless they have this role. This will keep the competitive integrity that Valorant has promised in custom matches along with the rest of the game modes. Another one that was released this week comes from Valorant Express on Twitter. And in this data mined info, there was feedback that players will now receive once a player they reported gets banned. If this happens to you, a message should show up saying, "You recently reported so-and-so for cheating, and after review, they have been banned. Thank you for your help protecting the game." This is a great addition to Valorant because now we will be informed if the developers took action against a player that could possibly be cheating. Up next is a very interesting tweet from Floxy, where all he says is tournament mode in all caps. There isn't any more information added onto this tweet, but it looks like we can expect some sort of tournament mode where they might be able to implement some sort of in-game tournaments. This way, organizers of competitions don't have to use custom matches to run games. It will be very interesting to see how this feature can be used and if it changed the way that some of the future tournaments might be run. Floxy took this same approach with another tweet where he just says loyalty XP boost. In Valorant right now, a major concern is if the battle pass is too long, because in order to complete the whole thing, you have to gain 1,372,000 XP. This is the same XP as one would gain if they played 1,372 Spike Rush games, and players have to do this all by the end of Episode 1, Act 1. We don't know how this loyalty XP boost could work, but if we had to guess, it could be applied if a player plays multiple games in a row without leaving. This will limit the amount of players rage quitting games and fix a pretty big problem in Valorant right now. Speaking of the Battle Pass, we have new information regarding the season end dates. These are the same dates that the Battle Passes will end on, so let's get right into them. As everyone already knows, Act 1 has already started, and the devs said that this act will last for 2 months. And right now, the end date is set for August 4th. This is when the next act will start, and it will also last for 2 months and end on October 13th. Then, the final act will start and it will end on January 12th. Remember that these dates will most likely change in the future, but right now, this is what we have. In each of these acts, we can expect some sort of change to the game, whether that be an added agent or a new map to play on. One agent that the community has heard a lot about is Killjoy. Now this isn't the agent's real name, but it's a code name, and for this next leak, we have more info on what his ultimate might do. A few days ago, Mango Leaks posted this to Reddit. In this post, it states that the ultimate ability is called Disarm. This could be super overpowered if it automatically makes a player drop their weapon mid-fight. I don't know if I would personally like to see this added into the game, but here's a look at what the character will see while in his ult. So here's what it will look like when you equip the ult. And here's what the ultimate will look like when idle and not fighting another player. So as you guys saw, it doesn't give us too much more information about what the disarm effect will really do, but we will keep you up to date if any more leaks are made surrounding Killjoy. Our final news regarding game files for this video comes from Mango Leaks, same post. Later down in the post, he talks about how more mobile files were added to the game. This is very confusing because the developers have already questioned whether having a game like Valorant should be on consoles or not. The fact that they keep working on the mobile design of the game means that the chances of seeing Valorant coming to mobile might be higher than many people expect. So that wraps it up for all of the leaks that are currently out right now. Be sure to let us know what you're most excited for. As for me, I cannot wait to see what they do with the new overtime system. Going forward, we have the inside look at how the devs want to progress with the game. In the main Valorant Reddit, there are tons of ideas being thrown around about some new game modes that could possibly get added into the game. Well, on June 26th, 8 of the Valorant devs sat down with the company Eurogamer and talked about the current state of the game. One of the most interesting topics that the devs were asked about was if Valorant servers could technically support tens or hundreds of players all in a single match with a much larger map. Basically, what the interviewer was asking here was if a battle royale mode was in the works. David Straley, the game tech lead, responded that the problem with such a game mode is that they wouldn't be able to have their 128 tick servers like they promised. Then he went on to say, if we ever were to do something at this scale, we would run a thorough investigation to find the best solve which maximizes player value. In the ideal, we would do something with dynamic tick rates where you keep a high frame rate when it matters most in gameplay, and then scale it down in situations where competitive integrity is a less critical need. Just the fact that Straley knew exactly what to say when asked about this means that the developer team has at least thought about implementing a battle royale style game mode in the future. Games like these have been huge in the past, so if Valorant did create a Valorant Battle Royale, then I'm sure that the game would appeal to many more players. Another game mode that the devs were questioned about was a retake server. In Valorant, one of the hardest jobs of a defender is to retake a bomb site after the spike has been planted. In order to perform this task, players need to practice where they need to use abilities in order to clear out angles where the opposing team might be playing. If there was a retake server in Valorant, then this could give many teams the ability to practice this hard task. Joe Ziegler, the game director, announced that they might be introducing something like this pretty soon as they're trying to add more practice modes for players. Now, the main goal of a practice mode is for players to be able to load in and learn how to play the different agents better. Later in the interview, Joe also talked about how the additional agents will differ once they are added into the game. He said, "Our framework for the starting 11 agents in our roster was to cover the basics of the functions of the known tactical space in creative and interesting ways, while also adding a few new elements here and there to challenge the notion of what is possible in the space. A lot of these basics are what you've described here: vision blocking, breaching, flushing, and distracting. So a lot of our tools for our initial characters focused on filling those purposes. With our upcoming agents, we're looking to broaden a bit on that and challenge some new areas of the tactical space and allow for the creation of new strategies, new types of plays. I won't give any spoilers here, but I look forward to seeing how the gameplay evolves with these additions." Basically, this means that they will be trying to really change the way that a competitive FPS is played. They are attempting to move away from how CS and Overwatch have been played and more into their own style. They already have the flashing, Molotov, and smoking mechanics in the game, so now they just have to create new mechanics that might switch up the way that tactical competitive shooters are played. With this in mind, we might be able to see some crazy new mechanics being introduced into Valorant pretty soon, and they might seem super overpowered at first, somewhat like Reyna's immune ability, but after time, players will realize that it might not be as OP as they thought. Even though the developers might want to add more agents into the mix, they have to be sure to balance the game and keep the competitive integrity that they promised. A huge problem that many titles face is players trying to stream snipe streamers. Other games have solved this problem by creating a feature called streamer mode, that can hide key information from the stream snipers. This isn't in Valorant right now, but Anna Donlin has already stated that they are working on this feature right now. Although there isn't a set release date, we can probably expect the streamer mode to roll out in the next 2 patches. Keeping on the topic of balancing, recently the Valorant website released a news article titled How We Balance Valorant. In this article, David Cole, the Valorant game designer, gave inside information on the steps that all the devs have to go through in order to make a balance change. To start off, he talked about who the game is balanced for. He made it pretty clear that when it comes to balancing changes, they want to balance the game for the competitive side rather than the casual. This is incredibly smart because the competitive players of Valorant play the game so much that they're able to learn how to counter certain abilities. At the start of Valorant's official release, a ton of players wanted a Raze nerf because they believed that our nades were way too strong. The devs noticed that the pros were rarely dying to them because they were able to position themselves better, and this is why they decided to not nerf the nades post-launch. Don't get me wrong, they still want to make casual play fun and exciting, they just don't want to make unnecessary changes that might hurt the pro players. So whenever you see a change that you might not agree with, be sure to consider why the devs added it and how it might be in place to fix a current problem with the competitive scene of the game. No matter what type of changes end up coming to Valorant, the devs will always have the same basic philosophy. Maybe some of you have already caught on, but the developers want to gradually nerf or buff an agent rather than applying some drastic change, making the agent either unplayable or extremely overpowered. So far, we have only really seen this done with Sage, but by doing this, the developers won't ever have to go back and revert a change they just made. On the other hand, gradually applying changes allows them to look at how it can affect other agents. Every change that the devs do to one agent can impact the other agents as well. For example, if the Sage wall gets a big health nerf, then the Raze blast packs can be seen as a bit more powerful because they can destroy it easier. The whole goal of balancing isn't to have every fight be 50-50 though. If this was to happen, then the game would feel really robotic-like, and the decisions made by the players won't affect the fight as much. This is why the changes won't be entirely data-driven and instead include some data on human judgment and decision-making when faced with certain situations. No matter what the developers change when it comes to Valorant, they have to jump through so many steps in order to know that the change they make won't break the game and it will instead keep the game relatively balanced. Now for our final topic in this week's news roundup, we will be diving into the most recent professional Valorant signings. We will start with one of the most anticipated rosters, 100 Thieves. A few weeks ago, Hiko was signed as their captain, and they now have stated that their goal was to build a team surrounding the ex-CSGO pro. During this announcement, Hiko was questioned about what type of players he would like to see play with him, and he simply said CS players. Throughout the whole beta, these players were able to transition into Valorant pretty smoothly because of the similar mechanics in CSGO. This made the 100 Thieves announcement a huge shock to fans because they filled the 4 remaining spots on the roster with ex-PUBG players. It will be very interesting to see how well this team performs, and luckily we got our first look at the new team in the T1 Valorant tournament that started on June 26th and went through the 28th. Speaking of the T1 tournament, this was the first NA tournament that was part of the Valorant Ignition series. This tournament was brought together by T1 Esports and Nerd Street Gamers and had a prize pool of $50,000. A ton of big names entered teams into the tournament such as FaZe Clan, Cloud9, Gen G, and like we said earlier, 100 Thieves. This was a great way to start off the Valorant esports scene in North America. Now, going back to the Valorant signings, FaZe Clan made their first announcement regarding Valorant esports. In this announcement, they introduced Corey and Jason R to their official roster. For those of you who don't already know, Corey was regarded as one of the best non-CS players that made the switch to Valorant. He comes from the Overwatch scene, and FaZe Clan wasn't the only team interested in him. In Hiko's interview, he showed a ton of interest in wanting Corey to sign with 100 Thieves. However, Corey still decided to join FaZe, and I can't wait to see who will fill up the last remaining 3 spots. No matter what team players play for, all pros compete to be the first top rank in a game. With Valorant's new competitive launch, the top rank is Radiant, and T1 Food managed to secure the first NA Radiant rank. This is a great sign for T1 because in the beta, Cloud9's Tens was the first Valorant rank, and he has proven to be one of, if not the best NA Valorant players right now. Since Food was able to achieve this crazy high rank, you can expect pretty big things from him and the rest of the T1 Valorant esports team. Right now, this is all the news that we have surrounding esports, but expect more information on the T1 Nerd Street Gamers tournament very soon. Well, that wraps it up for this week's Valorant news. Hopefully this video helped give you an idea of a few new features coming to Valorant in the near future. If you want to stay up to date with all Valorant news and get premium guides to help you improve at Valorant, then be sure to like the video and subscribe with notifications on. Everyone here at SkillCapped appreciates you watching all the way through this video, and we'll see you in the next one.